the most complete snooker player in the history of the sport, or an overrated and outdated slogger who's being carried by his class of 92 peers? Just how good is John Higgins? John Higgins is an elite break builder. As we can see from his centuries per season graph, the consistency that the Scot has shown throughout his career is matched only by Ronnie O'Sullivan. In recent seasons, he has consistently scored more than 50 centuries a season, and in the 1990s was only bettered by the legendary Hendry in terms of centuries, and is one of the few players to have over 1,000 in competition. In terms of frames per 50 plus break, which focuses on breaks that win the frame in one visit rather than just centuries, John Higgins' 2.87 frames per 50 break is simply elite, and is bettered only by the true break building greats such as Ronnie O'Sullivan and Hendry. The eye test shows that John Higgins is a player with a steady rhythm, capable of building breaks with ease. His technique is highly repeatable, and some would say John Higgins is the perfect break builder, never pushing the boat out, always playing the right shot, and with fantastic cue ball control. A shot that John Higgins plays so well is the old blue into the middle, with the white careering into the pink. He seems to be able to judge this so well and scatter the reds everywhere, better than most. Guys, I've recently filmed my 2,000 subscriber Q&A, and by the time this video goes live, I hope to be so close to that benchmark. My next goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers by the World Championship, something which I feel is ambitious.
What is it? Ambitious, but rubbish.
But achievable. So, if you love snooker, you want to see snooker content like this, and you want to see my channel grow and feature more and more exciting snooker content, smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and enjoy the rest of the video. John Higgins is one of those players that doesn't do well in terms of the availability heuristic, a mental shortcut where people estimate the likelihood of an event based on how easily similar instances come to mind, often leading to overestimating rare but vivid events. This is why we remember those flashy Jimmy White shots, or that some pundits still believe Judd Trump to be the best long potter in the world. John is never flashy, so his long potting ability is often overlooked. However, I can confidently say that John Higgins is a world-class long potter. I'd place him in the category of Kyron Wilson and Mark Selby, who are consistent long potters and consistently post strong long potting percentages throughout the season. His gauge of when to attack and when to defend helps him here, because John never takes on too many shots that he's unlikely to pot. He takes risks at the right times, and therefore he doesn't miss many long pots. His cue ball striking is really strong, so he's able to play a multitude of different shots when potting from range. Listen, he's no Neil Robertson or Sean Murphy, but his long potting proficiency is certainly world class, and it's no wonder he's been an elite player for 30 years. When you think of elite safety players, who comes to mind? Mark Selby? Sure. Steve Davis? Definitely. And John Higgins? Well, absolutely. John Higgins is rightly regarded as one of the best tactical minds in snooker history. His ability to tie his opponent up in knots by playing hard safety, his know-how of where his opponent does not want to play a shot from, and his knowledge of the angles means he is a formidable opponent, especially over longer matches. His ability to lay and get out of snookers is as good as I've ever seen, and to be able to do this consistently over the last 3 decades means you're looking at a tactical master. I'd argue that in recent seasons, Mark Selby has been slightly above John in terms of straight up safety play. I think John's longevity means at the age of 50, he doesn't always opt to play as many safety shots as he used to, but he's still one of the very, very best in this area. Some people think that safety play and temperament go hand in hand, but I disagree. It's common that a player has both, but it's not a rule. John Higgins for me is the example of an elite tactician that sometimes doesn't have the temperament to match. Listen, I want you to forget about what you hear churned out by pundits year on year, that John Higgins has the temperament of a brain surgeon, able to battle for hours and hours without a hint of emotion. I disagree with this, and I think it's lazy analysis, I really do. I'm not saying John Higgins has a bad temperament, but I'm not putting him anywhere near the likes of Mark Williams or Mark Selby, right at the top of the mountain. John Higgins' temperament has failed him multiple times in recent years in the biggest events. He lost 3 world finals in a row, and in each final he played well and was competitive. He lost in the semi-finals in 2022 to Ronnie O'Sullivan, and his anger and frustration at his own game was plain to see. John's definitely not got a bad temperament. Please do not think I'm saying it's bad. I'm merely challenging this theory that he's somehow got an elite temperament. For me, John would have won at least 1 or 2 more world titles since 2011 if he had a better temperament. I also feel that this is one of the reasons John just doesn't perform well at the Masters. He simply doesn't have the temperament to go there and win in front of that crowd with that pressure. This is something I think John has lost with age. 20 years ago I would have said he had an elite mental approach. Today though, and I don't think he does. His game is so strong in all areas that it boggles my mind he's only been to the Masters final once since he last won it in 2006. And the year he got to the final in 2021 was behind closed doors in Milton Keynes. A good temperament, yes. An elite one, not for me. John Higgins is part of the class of 92, so he's easy to compare to 6 players and zone in on how he does in the toughest matches. John Higgins 35, Ronnie O'Sullivan 41, drawn 3. John Higgins 38, Mark Williams 25, drawn 4. John Higgins 19, Mark Selby 22. John Higgins 26, Judd Trump 27, drawn 1. John Higgins 15, Neil Robertson 18, drawn 1. And John Higgins 19 all with Stephen Hendry, drawn 3. So then, John Higgins is mostly competitive against all of his peers, with no players having huge leads over him. He has a negative ratio against Ronnie O'Sullivan, I mean, who doesn't? As well as Mark Selby, Neil Robertson and Judd Trump, and has a 50-50 split with Hendry, and does well over Mark Williams, who does usually struggle in big matches, it has to be said. So then, it's not terrible. John Higgins does well in big matches against his peers, but he isn't in the Ronnie O'Sullivan class. But still, he's a class above the likes of Mark Williams, who struggled massively in head-to-heads. Overall, John Higgins is an all-time great, who is rightly regarded for his elite break building, safety play, and for being one of the game's most consistent players ever. With some improvements mentally over the past few years, John might be right up there with Ronnie O'Sullivan in terms of triple crowns and world titles, but this small chink in his armour means he is pretty much done, I'd argue, in winning the really big titles. He's still a match for anyone, and he could still win a big one, but I'd argue he's probably done at that level now. So let's rate John Higgins. Break building, 9.5 out of 10. Up there with the very, very best. Long potting, 8.5 out of 10, very strong. Safety play, 9.5 out of 10. As good as nearly anyone I'd say, maybe barring Mark Selby. Temperament, 7.5 out of 10. I know it's low. 15 to 20 years ago he'd be getting a 9 or a 10, but I've got to mark him down now for his lack of big tournament wins. And head-to-heads, 7.5 out of 10, for a total of 42.5 out of 50. And that total puts him right up there in the master category in joint 4th overall, with the same points as Judd Trump, and a little bit below Mark Selby, Stephen Hendry and Ronnie O'Sullivan. Looking at that, I think it's fair. He has 9 triple crowns, the same as Mark Selby, but I'd argue Selby's safety and temperament are slightly above that of John Higgins overall. Judd Trump does well simply because his break building and head-to-heads are so high, and it puts Higgins slightly above Neil Robertson. Overall, I'd say that's fair. But what do you think? Do you think John should be higher or lower? Let me know in the comments. And guys, if you want to help the channel out with a little donation, you can buy me a coffee. I'll put the link below.